Thank you so much, Mr Speaker. Look, I would like to I've put forward an amendment to the bill, and I'd like to give some consideration to everybody here about why I've put forward that bill.
Order.
There are two
Order.
changes that
The
I'd
member
like the
for
government and the
Wentworth.
House to consider.
Order. The member for Wentworth. If you could just state, I move the amendment circulated in my name, and then begin.
I move the amendment as circulated in my name. As I said, there are two changes I'd like the government and the House to consider. The bill as drafted would require the minister to make an annual statement to Parliament about Australia's progress in reducing emissions, relevant international developments, the government's climate change policy and the effectiveness of the government's climate change policies. My first change would require that the statement consider sector-by-sector impact of policies. It is important that Australians can see the progress being made by each sector of the economy and understand where climate policies are effective and where they are not. I hope this would bolster the government's sector-by-sector specific plans, setting out targets and measures that would provide certainty for businesses, investors and other stakeholders. My second change would require the statement to consider the effectiveness of the government's policies in general, rather than climate policies specifically. This is a subtle change but an important one. It will allow the minister, with advice from the Climate Change Authority, to consider the impact of the government's policies which may be making the emissions reduction task more difficult, such as fossil fuel subsidies. Transparencies will help to inform the public debate and will allow voters to take an informed view of the full cost of government's policies. I believe these changes are reasonable and sensible and will help us make progress towards emissions reduction. I hope that the government and others in this place will seriously consider supporting them. And finally, I'd like to thank the minister and the rest of the crossbench, as well as the government, for their engagement over the bill. It's been an example of the kind of collaboration I think we need in this place. It has been respectful and cooperative and, I believe, constructive. Thank you.
The question is the amendment be agreed to, and I give the call to the Minister for Climate Change and Energy.
Well, thank you very much, Mr Speaker. I'm very happy to support the amendment, and the government will support the amendment moved by the honourable member for Wentworth. She has suggested a range of ways that sectoral policies could be considered in this approach, some of which I disagreed with, some of which I agree with. I appreciate her moving an amendment which I had indicated we could support, I think reflecting sectoral approaches, which are very important in terms of getting our emissions reduction in the minister's annual statement of Parliament, is a very sensible thing to do, and I think the honourable member's amendment is well crafted and very supportable.
The question is